There's the button. I don't want to talk about this flippin' purple sausage, bitch. And good morning. How you doing this morning?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, and I'm gonna go ahead and just jump right in and say good morning, Jamie. Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Sergeant Major, and good morning, Steve. Which Steve I was referring to is anybody's guess.
And good morning, Vit World Champions.
S12. Howdy.
Howdy yourself.
Hey, so we are about to prove a point today. We can talk about possible election shenanigans as long as Trump is the bad guy.
Yeah, and
watch this episode not get struck by YouTube's ban hammers.
And we're gonna have to be careful about how we navigate this one. Because, of course...
there's nothing to navigate. The previous election was the most secure, awesomest election of all time. Joe Biden...
And right. It was the most free and secure and perfect election of all time. And nothing went wrong. And it was in no way at all interfered with.
No, it was... I mean, except for the part where Donald Trump tried to interfere with it.
Well, he couldn't have, because it was the freest and fairest election of all time. There was no interference.
No, I'm telling you, according to like our esteemed government right here in Georgia.
Oh, we got some black girl magic going on?
That's right. Donald Trump totally tried to interfere with the election, at least.
So after historic victory, Fani Willis plans transformation of Fulton DA's office. Yeah.
Historic victory? What makes it historic? Is it because she's female instead of male?
Well, it's not because she's black. I mean, she replaced Howard the Coward.
Exactly.
So she doesn't have that going for her. And let's just I want to show you real quick this one. I've got Fani Willis's Wikipedia page pulled up. And let me tell you what you need to know about her. As far as the internet's concerned, she doesn't exist. That's the whole thing. That could be
a good or a bad thing.
That's the whole Wikipedia page right there. Right? For a woman who has been doing this for 30 years, she's been a lawyer. She's been, in theory, a politician and a lawyer for nearly 30 years. And now, a judge grants special grand jury probe into Trump's attempts to overthrow Georgia election results.
Overturn, but...
overturn. I'm sure that's...
There's nothing Freud was right about that.
But he couldn't do it because the election was fortified.
That's right. Like, it was a castle with a moat, and Trump was an army without a drawbridge or a... cavalry.
Your analogy is petering out.
Yeah, it started out strong, and then I lost it kind of midway through. It happens sometimes.
And let's not forget, Joe Biden has been very clear on this. Despite his election having been the most secure and free and well fortified of all time, this year's election can still be stolen because Democrats voted against Democrats to federalize elections.
Look, this is easy math, okay?
The filibuster is racist.
That's part of it, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
No. This is easy math. Look, 2016, election shenanigans.
Obviously.
Russia, right?
Obviously.
Okay.
Yeah.
2020, rock solid.
Rock solid.
Rock solid.
No
I mean,
problems.
like, you could write checks on it and cash it, okay? Rock solid.
Like the ones the Saudi princes wrote to the Democrat National Committee.
Man, this is... this morning. Golly. Should do this more often, where, like, one of us plays the straight man. It's actually a lot harder to do in practice, though. It gives you a lot of respect for the guys that can actually do it.
I find it very easy to play the straight man. I've been married for 14 years.
Okay, what's the name of the guy on second? So anyhow, but then, look, 2016, bullshit. 2020, rock solid. 2024, might be bullshit.
We'll see.
We don't know if a Democrat has won yet.
Right.
All right, that's your 2022. I don't know. It depends. We don't know if Stacey Abrams has won Georgia yet.
Well, and let's not forget that literally every single time a Republican has won the White House, the Democrats have filed a lawsuit alleging election fraud.
And
every time,
and with
exception.
very few exceptions.
I'm sorry. They didn't do it to Abraham Lincoln.
Well, yeah, that's because the Democrats seceded. They kind of overshot the mark
Right.
when Abraham...
The first time a Republican won, the Democrats just quit America.
Take my slaves and go home. I mean, my ball. I mean, it's really kind of the same thing, because we just treat them like objects. But no. Not only that, but they also draw up. Now, it's not always a successful attempt, but they basically always draw up articles of impeachment against Republican presidents as well.
Correct.
Like, it cannot be overstated the amount of opposition that any Republican politician walks into office having to swim through. And I'm not making excuses for their often weak and feckless behavior. That's not the point. However, they do walk into a buzzsaw from day one. It said something about Trump's character when... And I missed the way he answered questions. Like, at this point, I missed the mean tweets. But it said something about Trump's character when... So, well, you're going to be president. Well, are you a Republican? And he said, I want to run and win as a Republican. It's like he said, no, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it on hard mode just to prove a point.
Right.
And fair enough. He did. So, but no, I remember, I remember the election in 2000. And, wow.
So do I.
Wow. I am now old enough to remember things that happened 20 plus years ago and be able to reference them in context. Oh my. You know what though? I'll take being 40.
And I wasn't even in high school at the time.
Look, I'll take being in my 40s over not being in my 40s.
Yes.
So anyhow, but I remember that with the whole thing with the hanging chads and like, if you were not alive during that time, like, it was wild, okay? Like, every state in the union turned in their election results. And it's funny, we were mostly paper ballots then, and everybody was able to get that shit counted relatively quick. Just saying.
You mean like the same day?
For the most part, yeah. There were some that lagged behind, but within about 48...
There weren't any that lagged behind by a month.
Like I was going to say, like it took them like 48 hours if they were lagging behind. Yeah. Not a month. But Florida, man. Y'all, it was wild. Like every single day on the news, you'd get a recount update, and you'd get a recount update, and you'd get a recount update, and you'd get a recount update. And, like, Al Gore's margin of defeat got a little smaller, and a little smaller, and a little smaller, and a little smaller. And then finally, like, the Supreme Court of Florida stepped in and just said, no, you guys are done. You've done like 17 recounts. Yeah. And that's an exaggerated figure, but they stepped in and said, you guys are done.
Not by much.
You guys are done, okay? Look, it's time to pick one. And they didn't even necessarily say that George Bush was the winner. the Supreme Court just stepped in and said,
you have to make a decision.
that's right, you guys are done. Couldn't knock it off, right? And so, of course, the accusation was that somehow the Bush family had swung the Supreme Court for George Bush. Though, in all fairness, 20 years later, in a world where Alex Jones might be right about everything, that's not the most bizarre conspiracy theory I've rolled around in my brain over the past 12 months.
Far from it. But, so let's get back to this.
Yeah, but the point is, I'm sorry, I digress.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that this is a thing that Democrats do to Republicans and have done and have done and have done and have done. Notice how when Barack Obama was elected in 2008 and 2012, there was not a thing wrong with those elections. Nothing, right?
Correct.
But then Donald Trump wins, and oh man, it's Russian interference. And I guarantee you, Georgia in particular, if somehow Brian Kemp squeaks out the win, and I do think he'd have to squeak out the win, that'll be more election tampering, whatever.
Just like the last time he won?
That's right. And then in 2024, in what is likely to be a red wave, it'll be the same thing. I mean, like, you could take it to the bank. But getting back to this.
Yeah, this year, when the midterm is an absolute bloodbath for the enemy, they're going to cry foul. They're going to say it was stolen. They're going to say there was misinformation. There was fear-mongering and gerrymandering and blah, 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 blah. Because
Which there will be. There has been.
It couldn't possibly be the case that Americans go to fill up their gas tank and say,
this is bullshit!
I wanted to buy food this week.
I could drive to work, or I could have sandwiches at work.
No, you cannot have sandwiches at work. You can drive to work, or you can buy sandwiches. But Joe Biden does not accept having sandwiches and then taking them to work.
Oh, no, you could totally take them to work. You just can't leave work until Friday afternoon when you clock out. You're just sleeping in the parking lot doing that whore bath thing in the employee bathroom.
So here's why this is entertaining and why it's important. This is not different than the Smollett situation.
Okay.
What's happening here is a hoax is being ridden to absurdity. The claim, what they say they're investigating, in particular, this purple sausage on the right here, a judge authorized a plan to impanel special grand jury to investigate former President Donald Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election results in Georgia, days after the top prosecutor of the state's most populous county requested the probe.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Please be advised that District Attorney's Office has received information indicating a reasonable probability that the state of Georgia's administration of elections in 2020, including the state's election of the President of the United States, was subject to possible criminal disruptions, Willis wrote in a letter dated January 20th. Such periods shall include any time periods when the supervising judge determines that the special purpose grand jury cannot meet for safety or other reasons, blah, 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 blah. And relating directly or indirectly. Okay, she's not citing the evidence.
Well, the phone call. I mean, this all comes down to the phone call to Raffersburg.
That's the point. It's all going back to the phone call.
Damn, Waller. I mean, I feel your pain, but we're laughing because sometimes when you
Waller, I did some work for that college. You ain't kidding about that budget.
Okay,
I don't know nothing. So it's all about the phone call. So there was this phone call, hour-long phone call, and you can listen to the whole thing. We're not going to listen to it here, but here's a version of it from NBC News. If y'all want to go fact check me on the claims I'm about to make, there's the link in the chat for you. Y'all can go listen to the phone call yourself.
We're not going to listen to any of it. I thought I was going to get to hear the God Emperor speak, and it was going to start my day off right.
No, and here's why. In the course of the phone call, And I don't, in the course of the phone call, they discuss the thing that you cannot discuss on YouTube. And so I don't want that to be the thing that gets us gigged here.
Yeah, we just had a strike expire.
Right. So I mean, we could survive a strike right now. We'd be off the YouTube for a week, but I'd rather have the conversation than accidentally get gigged because I let the wrong part of the phone call play. But the claim is that in the phone call, Donald Trump explicitly demanded that Brad Raffensperger commit fraud on his behalf. And they say that he said, I want you to find 11,780 votes. This is just like the Very Fine People hoax.
Oh, yeah. Or the Russia...
It's an absolute lie.
Well, or the encouraging Russia to hack us thing, going all the way back to the campaign itself. Like,
well,
the appeal with Trump is that he talked like a normal person. Like,
right.
it was very obvious that he was being sarcastic and what's the word? Man, I'm blanking on the... But he was being a thing in which he was deliberately exaggerating to make a point. He didn't actually want Russia to hack the USA in any way. He just correctly pointed out that if Hillary Clinton had those emails on an unsecured server, there are foreign actors that probably had copies of them. Okay?
And that's a great...
Yes, that is a great point. Thank you.
It's a great comparison between that comment, though, and the Very Fine People hoax and this hoax, with the one that you're referencing, where they said that Trump actually encouraged Russia to hack the servers.
Russia, maybe you can find the emails.
Right. In that case, he actually did make the comment that was attributed to him, but it was in the obvious context of sarcasm. It was obvious that he was making a joke.
Satire to illustrate the satirical.
Right, and you couldn't even make that mistake by being stupid. The only way you could make that mistake in context was to deliberately lie. Right. Now, you fast forward to the Very Fine People hoax, and the sentence, there were very fine people on both sides, those exact words were uttered by Donald Trump. In that phrase, that sentence fragment existed inside the same sentence where he said, now I'm not talking about the white supremacists and those people who should be condemned totally. Right? And going back and looking at that one, I think it's obnoxious that he said that white supremacists should be condemned totally, and at the time did not also say that Antifa and BLM should be condemned totally, because they should.
Right, right.
Especially if you're a Democrat. Right? Democrats and Muslims have a very similar problem. You need to grow up and denounce your terrorists.
It's not hard.
You don't do it because they're not a part of you. They are you. Right?
Well, look, and here's the thing with this phone call, though. It's the exact same thing. Donald Trump called up Ratzenberger, and yes, I mispronounced it that way on purpose, and had a conversation with him, like, person to person, the way that Chris and I sometimes talk to each other. And, again, like, this happened throughout his entire presidency and election. He didn't actually want Ratzenberger to cheat by 12,000 votes. What he was saying was, I think there's shenanigans, okay? And you mean to tell me, out of millions of votes, you can't find a couple 10,000 that you can make go away with reasonable suspicion of shenanigans? Excuse me. That's what he was saying. He just was saying it in the Donald Trump way that occasionally included things like Kofefi, because he would tweet on the shitter at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? Like, and there's another component to this, okay? This grand jury does not have the ability to indict, okay?
Right.
But what it does have is a huge timeline. Like normally, like when grand juries meet, they meet for a couple of days, a week, and they go over like dozens of cases
Right.
and decide which cases have enough evidence to indict and which cases don't, right? This grand jury has like a year-long timeline. They have subpoena power, but they can't indict. And I'm like, it's very interesting. Because that basically means they could go digging around in anything that they want to, and they can say it's part of the investigation. Like, it's a smear job. And look, I don't need a grand jury. You're going to be able to find Donald Trump saying off-color and even potentially dumb shit. You won't have to look very hard. That's going to be easy to do. Okay? And besides, we've already got the phone call. We know what happened. Trump was pissed. Trump felt like he was being done dirty, and he felt like Ratzenberger had the power and the authority to undo some of the dirty dealing. Plain and simple. Okay? But you reach a certain point where, like, there's a thing in the law. Okay? Like, let's say Chris and I get into an argument, and I say, Chris, I hate you so much, I wish you were dead. Or, you know what, Chris, if I ever see your face again, I will kill you, right? And then the next day, Chris dies under some mysterious violent circumstance. They're going to look at me as a suspect, okay? Reasonably so. However, they can't jump straight to charging me with attempted murder or conspiracy to commit murder because people say things when they're emotional that are exaggerated. And Donald Trump did this all the time. He would get excited and he would run his mouth. And granted, sometimes he took things too far. Absolutely, no question about it. But there is a difference between saying, God, I hate you and I wish you were dead, and actually going out and killing somebody. Or in Donald Trump's case, saying, man, you know, I think this election is bullshit, and I really feel like you should be able to find 12,000 votes that you can throw out because they're bullshit. Now, YouTube, let me be clear. Not only was this the most free and fair election of all time, Georgia might have the absolute bestest ever election system out of the 50 states.
Right.
There were no votes for Ratzenberger to find. Donald Trump was absolutely wrong. Okay?
Oh, I'm laughing at something completely unrelated that I'm reading on a different screen.
Fair enough. So
it's pretty simple. What's really going on here is this prosecutor has been attempting to interrogate people who have a Fourth Amendment right to be secure in their persons, properties, and papers, and a Fifth Amendment right not to speak against themselves in any context, and has decided, you know what? Screw that. I hate your Constitution. Because she's an Obama Democrat, so she hates the Constitution and has decided that she's going to use the law to end run it and steal rights away from people who are protected by the Constitution, whose God-given rights are protected against tyrannical government by the Constitution. And now we see another case where if the government decides that the Constitution, that your constitutional rights are inconvenient to them, then they'll just switch it off for you.
Or they'll create a brand new special set of circumstantial rules that are say, well, this one time. Because, I mean, that's what's going to happen here. This grand jury totally doesn't have the power to indict. Just has the power to, like, crawl all the way up Trump's ass and see what he had for breakfast. They're allowed to do that. But they don't have the power to indict, so it's all good. Except, as you pointed out, there's that whole Fourth Amendment thing. And then I think it's pretty clear that there are certain things about both the First and the Fifth Amendment that are going to be really easy to just trample right the hell over. Okay? Now, let's just say they did find a smoking gun here. They're not going to try and bring charges against Trump or at least some people in his camp. Now,
honestly, probably not, because it's about the narrative.
It is well, dude, how much more of a narrative? Let's say they even found a thing that looked like a smoking gun. It doesn't have to actually be a smoking gun.
They're not gonna pursue charges on that smoking gun because here's the thing: if they find something that looks like a smoking gun, you get to report on that and talk about it all day. But if you take it, you try it, and you lose, then it doesn't serve the narrative.
Dude, they won't lose. They won't lose. Look at all those people that were involved.
No,
in
the system works. It's free and fair and secure.
Listen, seriously. Look at all those people that are going to jail or having years of probation for what amounts to criminal trespass regarding the January 6th incident. Look at what the judge told Red, White, and Woad when he sentenced him to prison. Told him straight up, I believe you're sorry. You're going to prison anyway because of the god-awful nature of your crime.
Oh yeah, and that oh my God, I hope he gets a lawyer that
no, it's not going to happen, man. Appeals take years, which means by the time he's managed to get an appeal, he'd already be out. And God, that whole thing. Look, we'll revisit that one because being convicted of a felony in a federal court is way worse than being convicted of a felony in like a state superior court. Like, you could get felonies expunged on the state level.
Yep.
A lot harder to do on the federal level, right?
It almost takes a presidential pardon.
Yes. But look, the point is, okay, the government's attitude toward everything that happened with regard to Trump. Rush Limbaugh used to say the reason why they hate Trump is not because they hate Trump.
No, they hate you.
They hate you.
They hate us.
They hate the fact that us would decide to elect a guy like Trump because we're so tired of the Mitt Romneys and the John McCains, and for that matter, the Barack Obamas and the Joe Bidens, except for when we're not. I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud? Because Joe Biden totally won the best election ever. Like, that was just a joke, YouTube. But the point is, they hate you. And as far as a narrative is concerned, part of the narrative that everybody continues to run with, at least, a couple of times a month, you hear about a few more people related to January 6th that have been sentenced to either jail time or probation. Jail time or probation. It's an ongoing narrative. Those evil insurrectionists keep getting sentenced to fines and probation and jail time. It just, it's awful and it's terrible. So if they found a thing that looked like a smoking gun, they'd either go after Trump or they might do the ultra dirty and go after one of Trump's kids. And you want to break a man. You want to break any parent. That's what you do. You go after the babies.
Yeah, you don't want any part of that. No.
I'm just saying.
And then we'll close on this. Decent Hombre pops up with a comment. And I'm not going to read the comment out loud. I'm just going to point out that I think it's funny because you clearly just came in at the end of the show and don't have any idea what we're talking about. Nice try, Sunshine. Go troll somewhere else. And for the rest of you, we'll see you tomorrow. And we love you. Be safe out there.